Well, welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and today our focus on the program is the power sector reforms, and we're taking a look at PHCN issues as well. I have here with me in the studio the former chairman, Engineering and Construction Group of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Engineer Adekola Adedeji, and he's also a forum member of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Ikeja Zone. But just before we go on with that, let's take a look at some company news. Unilever Nigeria PLC has declared a 45% decline in its profit before tax to 1.07 billion naira for the third quarter of the year. The company's revenue, however, grew by 8.2% from 14.7 billion naira in the comparable period to 15.9 billion naira this year, while its net assets declined by 17.9% to 8.2 billion naira. We're staying with company news, and for the same period, that's the third quarter of the year, Nationwide Express declared a 15.5% increase in its revenue. The company's profit before tax rose by 49.3% to 62.2 billion naira. Profit after tax also climbed by 36.9% to 50.2 billion naira in 2013, while net assets shed 22% to 354.7 billion naira. Our conversation continues on the program now, and as I said, we're still looking at PHCN issues. Engineer Adekola Adedeji is still here with me. Thank you so much, sir, for staying around.
Thank you, dear.
Well, just before we went on that break, we talked about the possible generation and distribution issues that are being faced with this power sector reform. But then there's this huge debate about transmission. Now, the technical committee on the National Council on Privatization has warned that there's still problems of weak transmission and gas constraints. Now, what's the most practical way that this can be resolved?
Well, I can tell you that the situation is getting better by the day. Let's talk of the gas supply first, because even these generating plants that have been installed or commissioned, almost 80% of them are going to be driven by gas. A few hydro. Yes, there were some mistakes in the past. Let me say the regime administration before the present. They were short-sighted about this matter of gas production to drive these power plants. But since the inception of the present administration, some measures have been put in place to redress the situation. So I can tell you that most of these ones that are being commissioned now, we surely get gas to drive them.
So we have enough gas supply?
At least to meet the situation of, it may not be totally 100%, but at least you have allocations. So information on ground is that allocations have been made, by the gas production company, for these thermal plants that have been commissioned. So we can rest assured the electric power will come out of them, at the end of the day. So, and that's not ending there. There are other plans in place, like what they call the master plan, gas master plan for the whole country. Okay? The idea is that we should have gas available for whatever, either for power generation, for other things like heating or any industrial application.
So what kind of strategies?
Kind of master plan.
Apart from the master plan,
yes.
is it the master plan? Is it a workable one? Is it feasible in terms of the situation that we have? Because it's peculiar. Situations are usually peculiar to a particular economy, for instance, and we can't keep referring to what other countries like Japan, China, Russia, and the likes of them have actually, successfully done with their power sector.
Yeah.
Situations are peculiar, like I already said. So does the master plan that we have, is it feasible? Is it something workable? Will it actually address the challenge that we're talking about in terms of the gas supply constraints that we envisage might come up?
You see, when we look at the life of individuals or corporate individuals, so to say, or even a country, planning is very, very crucial. When you're going on a journey, you need to make your plan. As an individual, I'm sure you are planning for where you want to be, maybe in the next 10 years. And that's very crucial. And that's what government, in the past, some of these plans were made, unfortunately, due to interruption through the military, whatever, some of these things were not able to achieve the plans. But what we're saying now is this: these plans have been made to keep us on the track, to know where we want to be. If you want to, get to the level of Japan or China, you have to think like them. You have to think like them.
But do we have the enabling environment like they do?
We have to create it. You have to work towards it. You have to create the environment. So, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is this: that plan is very crucial. You can be reviewing the plan as go along the journey. Every year you review it. Oh, how far have you gone? Where do you need to be again? Review is very important. But what I'm saying is there's something on ground, at least a working document, to let us see where we want to be, which is very crucial. So I believe government is serious about it, and that's why we're going to even get the gas we have on ground now to power some of these commission thermal plants.
Okay, so
the other factor you mentioned
about the transmission.
The transmission, I can tell you, government is also very serious about transmission. Two things have been done. Quite a number of what we call substations, high voltage substations, have been completed. I think yesterday one in Karu in Abuja was commissioned by the minister, and many of them have been commissioned. In Keja West, we have some, one going on there, and all over the country, there are many of these substations, which is a major part of transmission companies, transmission line, because that's why you do all the stepping down, stepping up to meet local requirements, demands. So what I'm saying is a lot of projects have been given out in that sector. And we also have a management company, I think a Canadian company with about 51% ownership, to look at these things holistically and manage that sector, because it is between the generating companies we call GENCOs and the DISCOs, distribution companies. So, is to reinforce the transmission line.
In all of this, how much did indigenous engineers perform, in this process? How much was their presence felt in the process?
I can tell you, a lot of indigenous engineers are involved in what is going on at present. Both in the consultancy, the constructions, government has done well in that sector, I can tell you, because of let me call it indigenization policy, and there's what we call the local content. I call it indigenous content. Okay? Government is trying, to make sure that most of these projects, considerations are put in place to favor indigenous companies. Though they may have partnership with some foreign companies, but they allow them to have a major say.
When you say major say, how many percent are we looking at? Because as much as possible, we want to encourage, our own, domestic players, indigenous engineers, indigenous companies to take part in whatever development is going on in the economy for whatever sector. And this is a very crucial sector.
You're very correct, and that's why I told you, with this national content indigenous content policy. There's time we're looking at about 10%. That's okay. At least 10% of whatever is going on, indigenous people must have 10% share.
But now, what do we have?
It's reviewed every day, maybe, every year from time to time by the National Assembly to say, okay, in this sector, we want to make sure 20% this year, maybe next year it should be 30%, because we can't do it in a rush. We don't have all the skill on ground, let's be frank. But while you are partnering with foreign companies, foreign...
is there any exchange of information?
That is happening. That is happening, I can tell you, yes.
And all the rest.
Within corporate entities, within governments, a lot of exchange, of manpower, growth, is taking place. So, I'm saying, while we're doing that, a lot is being also put in place to train our indigenous people. And that's why government needs to encourage the universities. It's unfortunate as it's on strike now. You need your people. You need to train them. So they need to be trained. We need to put more money in education to train your people and retrain them. Even when they're engaged, either in the government establishment or in private sector, they need to be trained and retrained. So government has put in place at present, I think, a national Nigerian training institutes, I think, to train people within the industry, to be able to meet the challenges ahead.
Now we're talking about the PHCN assets and the rest of it, and we've forgotten the NIPPs, the National Integrated Power Projects. What is the status of the NIPP projects in this grand scheme?
Okay, you see, essentially NIPP handles most of the projects in transmission. Okay, where the NDPC, that's Niger Delta Power Holding Company, focuses majorly on the generation. So the two of them are working fine. The NIPP is working, the NDPHC is working. Okay? So the two of them are very solid on the ground, and they're working, they're running fast here.
Okay, so now that we seem to be getting it right in the power sector, isn't it time for us to begin to diversify our energy source? For instance, begin to harness the power of solar, wind, coal, which we have an abundance of in this country.
Yeah, sure. That is also going on. You see, the government is looking into coal, okay, which we have in abundance, I think, in the eastern part of this country and part of the middle belt. Wind, some projects on wind power generation is also taking place in Kano area. So we have some of them dotted here and there.
Yeah, so they shouldn't be dotted. We want to see them spread across the country. So as much as possible, the dependence on electricity supply will reduce.
We can't have everything one day. The important thing is to highlight these things, put them on paper. Like I said, have a plan. Which one can you tap into to meet your present challenge without much ado?
Okay, so this blueprint now to give us electricity. Is such a project, are such projects contained in this master blueprints that we're seeing that might last for medium to the long term?
Long-term plans, yeah.
So are we seeing such projects inside such a master plan in terms of harnessing the power of solar, wind and coal, and not just in some areas but everywhere across the country?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These are all in the plan. They're all in the plan, but you have to look at which one can you quickly tap into to meet your present challenges. Then you look at the economics of each of these options, But the important thing is to move from one level to the other and be focused on what you really want. So you are very correct. We have these resources in abundance all over the place. So sight will not be lost, in making sure we annex all these resources to meet national economic plans.
Now, it's important that the investors and consumers get the best of everything that is happening in the power sector. What should the NERC be doing, and yes, most likely the BPE, be doing to ensure that the investors and the consumers actually get the best out of the situation?
Thank you very much. Like I said, based on the economic reforms of 2005, the role of NERC is basically to regulate, to control, to make sure both sides of the divide, are happy, kind of a mediatory role. Into the Nigerians, what do they want? Are they being cheated? Are the discourse fair to them? That is the purpose. So you look at what the complaints are. You also look at what the issues are on the other side. But the important thing is to make sure the power is available with fairness to all parties concerned.
I'm very sure a lot of Nigerians are looking forward to it, especially since the President has given us this assurance that by the first quarter or by the first half of next year, we should see all of this situation improve in the power sector. Well, thank you so much, Engineer Adekola Adedeji, for joining me on the program this morning. It's been interesting having this conversation with you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I've been speaking with the former Chairman, Engineering and Construction Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Engineer Adekola Adedeji, and he's also a foreign member of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Ikeja Zone, and it's been an interesting conversation. But of course, this is a sector that we know that has issues that come up every day, and so the conversation will definitely continue. It doesn't end here, but this is where we end the program today. I'm talking about Business Morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Harriet Agbenyi.